So I just climbed to the top of a mountain, but I looked it up and actually it turns out it's officially not a mountain. So I now have to say I climbed to the top of a rock rather than a mountain, which doesn't sound as good, but it was steep. You can see it's very rocky. And if I turn this around, you can see, and I'm not actually right at the top at the moment, you can get an idea on actually how high this is. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But anyway, the topic of the video today isn't this mountain. It's that I climbed the wrong mountain, but in business. And I want to kind of explain a bit more about what I mean. And so this video really is going to be a bit of a context on my story, how I kind of got to where I am today, which if you don't know, I've made over $2 million, $2.5 million with my coaching business. The first sort of $1.5 million of that was with sales calls, a sales team, appointment setters, the real kind of Alex Hormozi, bro scaling kind of way of doing things. And the most recent million of that has been the opposite. No sales calls, no sales team, been able to spend most of my time doing stuff like this, whilst having people coming to me pre-sold, ready to buy, and my content really doing all the selling for me, and just a very simple offer doc that people see and then buy. Now that's not anything new, at least now anyway. There's a lot of people doing that, but I want to give you a bit of an insight. If you're someone who is stuck in the sales call grind, the pat calendar, the overworking, overcoaching, objection handling, attracting maybe a lot of the wrong people, then this video is for you to understand kind of what I went through and what I changed to be able to have the business and have the life that I now have, and understand essentially what I had to really change to be able to do it. So let's give you the context first, and I can't put this down anywhere, so I just have to hold it. Let's give you the context first. So I'd started my page, and I'll give you a quick context. I started my page in 2020, built my personal brand, but I was thinking about other random stuff, branding, marketing, graphic design, Instagram growth. My niche actually changed probably about 10 times at least before I actually landed on exactly what I do now. And so over the years, that's led to quite a few issues with audience quality, an issue I call audience dilution, which basically means people follow you for one thing and then they stop following you, stop interacting because you change your niche, and then that ruins your engagement, it ruins your growth, and has a knock-on effect. Anyway, I ended up in a position where I had 100,000 followers and I was getting great engagement at this time because I was speaking about Instagram growth of all things. And I tried to monetize, and I could barely even sell a $50 per month coaching kind of membership thing. And it was in April 2021 that I then invested in my first high ticket mentor. This is off the back of growing my personal brand to 100,000 followers in the space of 9 months, which was, at the time kind of unheard of. Obviously it happens a lot more recently, a lot more often now, but this is back in 2020, which was maybe the gold rush, so to speak, of Instagram growth and coaching and whatnot. So anyway, I invested in the high ticket coach, learned how to sell high ticket, position myself a bit better. And then eventually I got to a point where a few months after that, I was then able to sell a high ticket coaching program to this audience, when previously I could barely even sell a $50 per month, membership. So that opened my eyes. Long story short, I began to scale that side of the business. A couple of years went by and I hired the sales team. I had, a closer at one point. I had an appointment setter. I had about 10 appointment setters, because you hire and fire people and you have no clue what you're doing. They have no clue what they're doing. The calendar was packed all the time, and don't get me wrong, it was amazing in the moment. It was simple in the fact that there wasn't that many moving parts, but it was extremely complex and draining, because of actually each moving part required so much of me, my life, my energy. And it's not that way of doing things, that business model is bad, because it's not inherently bad. It was just inherently not me. It's not why I wanted, it's not why I started a business in the first place, because my background before all of this was in architecture. I studied to be an architect. I went to, I started as an architectural assistant, and it's just before, literally just before COVID, I was in that role for 3 months. And I actually decided myself I wanted to quit because I hated it. I spent years studying to be an architect, years wanting to be an architect, got into it and I hated it. Why? Because I was limited, restricted on what creatively I could do. I was just simply looking at floor plans and moving things around, organising files on the desktop, And the realization was that was going to be how I had to earn my stripes in the industry for, at least 5-10 years before I could start doing anything actually worthwhile, creative and fulfilling. And for me, I was sold a bit of a lie from the architecture industry, so to speak. And luckily I said to myself, no, you know what, enough is enough. I'm not going to do this, even though I'm just 3 months in. I can see where this is going. I'm going to make a change. And that's how I got into Instagram and content creation. And there's more of a story there, but that's not the point of that video. The point is, I made a change because I wanted a business that was creative, that was fulfilling, a business that allowed me to wake up at 6 in the morning, hike at the top of a mountain, a rock, and still have people messaging me, reaching out, sales coming in, clients being served, without me having to constantly be stuck in my room on Zoom all day, every day, and for that to be my life. And especially now that I have a son and that hopefully we'll be having, more children in the future, that, that's just not part of the equation for me, at least not anymore. And so we got to 2024. February 2024 is when I had kind of fully committed to no sales calls, no sales team, emptying my calendar and really starting to scale the kind of simple offer doc, DM selling, or not even DM selling, but just closing people in the DMs and pre-selling with content. And there was a bigger reason as to why this had to happen as well. It wasn't just a more personal reason, although it was of course a big part of it. There's also the fact that me and my wife Liv, we had been trying to have a child for a good few years before that, and we'd gone through, I think by that time, four or five miscarriages, which were really tough. And so we had to start going through the IVF process to be able to have our first child, Xander, who's now 18 months. So that was all a success. But the kind of point was that the business was so stressful, life was so stressful, health then took a knock, and it meant then that fertility markers and all of those things absolutely plunged. And it meant that the thing that you think you should be able to do as a man, you couldn't, right? Again, there's more to it. It wasn't all me and whatnot. There was multiple problems. And again, if you've been through sort of infertility problems or whatever with your partner and you struggle to get pregnant, you get it, right? It's never just like a one-sided thing. Anyway, so we knew we had to make a change, and when I had a child, I didn't want to be the type of dad that had to, the type of dad that done everything for, his family, apart from being present, apart from actually being there. I didn't want to be an absent dad. That was the worst thing for me. I spent a lot of time with my dad growing up, going to football, doing those sorts of things. And that's time that I look back on and cherish. And so I didn't want to then be the type of dad that does the opposite and is constantly stuck in my office all day working and never sees my son. Anyway, so 2024, we made the change. And by the end of 2024, don't get me wrong, it was tough to begin with because I was figuring it out, kind of trial and error, a lot of stuff. But I then got to a stage where the business began to look like itself again and was making a good amount, multi-six figures per year run rate, all whilst having no calls on my calendar, no sort of like 5-10 hour sessions stuck in front of Zoom. Actually the quality of clients massively improved in terms of the people I wanted to work with them, wanting to help them, getting them results. I just felt better about the business, making content felt better, doing videos like this feels better. The entire business just improved, and I'm not going to lie and say that I'm necessarily making more money than I was back then. There's again a hell of a lot that's gone on in our personal life and things that meant that I've not really been able to commit to the business as much as I've perhaps wanted to. But this is a season of life, and at the end of the day, I'm going to look back on this in 50 years and kind of wish I was back in this moment anyway. So yeah, there's a lot of it is about perspective. So to get to the meat of the video, what did I actually change? Well, prior to when I was doing sales calls, I was hitting sort of 75k cash months. I'd made, like I said, first $1.5 million. But the selling someone had to happen on a sales call. It never happened before. It was extremely rare that someone came to me and said, Harry, I'm ready to pay. I don't need a sales call. Just send me the invoice. It basically never happened, possibly did never happen. And so I knew something had to change. So what I had to do was realize and figure out, okay, well, what actually makes someone pre-sold for them to buy and pay me a good few $1,000s? And really come down to 4 beliefs. If someone had these 4 beliefs, then they're pre-sold. So let's go through each 4. Number 1 is belief in you. So belief in you is you as a person. Do they like you? Do they trust you? Do they resonate with your story? Do they believe and do they align with your values, your morals, your ethics, your beliefs? I think all of these things matter massively. And it's why I talk so much now about no sales calls, about being the dad, the freedom side of things, because ultimately people buy the coach before they buy the coaching. And so that's something you have to really communicate in your content, is what do you actually believe in? It's not just about being good at what you do, because people would invest in the person they feel more closely aligned to, who can get them to their goal, versus a person that actually might be better at getting them to the goal, but actually has complete opposite beliefs to them. So that's belief number 1. Belief number 2 is belief in the method, as in your method, right? So what's your mechanisms, your strategy, your tactics? What is the actual approach you have to helping people get to their goal, right? And so we and the coaching industry in general, like I said, of course it existed before 2020, but I think 2020 when COVID happened was really where things started to heat up, where people started to really take the online coaching industry a bit more seriously. And it's where you began to have a big flood of people online, not just selling coaching and education products, but of course people buying online education products. And what happened was that over the past few years, we're now 6 years past that point, the industry has shifted, the market industry has shifted. And so you go through a stage where people are new to the industry, they don't really know anything about anyone, about any products, about whatever. And so it means that you can basically just say, you can sell a promise. You know, you can sell to someone, I'll help you lose fat, I'll help you make lots of money. And because that person is green in the industry, as in they're brand new, then they buy into it, right? But after people buy lots of programs, they get burned or they don't enjoy it or whatever, the industry matures and the people's understanding of what they're being sold changes. And as a result, how you sell to someone and why people buy changes. And so people don't just buy a promise anymore. They're at a stage now where people buy not just a promise, but a path on how you get to the promise. So many people have been sold this dream on how to make money online, like me, but then you end up being on your phone all day, every day, sending DMs to people rather than playing with your kid or actually talking to your wife or being present. You're on Zoom calls and you make money, you achieve the outcome, but you're doing it in a way which you don't want to be doing it. So you look for an alternative not just in terms of the outcome, but an alternative in terms of the path, the method. So you have to teach people and show people what is your unique way, what is your method, how is that different to other people, and how does it actually work, right? What's the thought process behind it? And I think that's really, really important. So that's belief number 2. Belief number 3 is then belief in the outcome. Now, when I say outcome, I don't mean belief that they can get the outcome. This is belief in if you help someone to, for example, make money, what is the lived reality that that person would experience when you help them to achieve it? Right, so if you think about the outcome you help someone with, you know, when someone pays you money, what is it you're helping them to do? Make more money, lose weight, build a better brand, etc. and so on. The outcome after that is, what does their life actually look like as a result of achieving the thing you help them with? They have to believe in that. And so again, if I was making content or talking about my business and all I ever spoke about was being inside all day, working non-stop, then of course that's going to attract the type of person that wants to be inside all day working non-stop, which is, you know, cool for some, but it's not cool for others, and it's not what I want to do or be. But what I'm trying to sell people is the reality that if you were to work with me and implement my way of scaling the business and getting clients, then you too can climb a random rock on a random Sunday morning in a random country in the world and still be getting people reaching out to you, still be making sales, still be serving and delivering your clients. That's kind of the point, right? That's the outcome. So it's lived reality. What do people actually experience as a result of achieving the thing you help them with? Okay. Number 4, the final belief is belief in now. Now being now is the right time. Now what you sell is the perfect offer, is the right next step for what they need. Because people can see what you sell and they can have all the previous beliefs, but they can see what you sell and they can see it as being a nice to have, not a must have. They can see it as being something they want to do, but not now, but something to do in the future. And that's all well and good. It means, yeah, of course, you might have a pipeline of people that might pay you, it's not guaranteed. But it means you then end up missing out on a lot of cash collected, and actually you do miss out on clients because there's no guarantee that people even come back anyway. And so you have to communicate to people, number 1, why is now the right time for the thing you sell? But 2, you have to learn how to attract people that already believe that. And this is one of the secrets here of how to pre-sell people and how to kind of make sales in a more easier way, is understanding that the job of your content isn't to just sell hard and sell to people and convince people, but it's to attract people that already believe in those 4 things, right? Or at least most of them. And the more of those 4 things, 4 beliefs someone can already have existing, then the easier it is for that person and the quicker it is for that person to believe in you and then want to buy from you. And so if you want someone to believe that now is the right time, then ask yourself, who is the type of person, what conditions, what experiences, what situations they have to be in to truly believe that what I sell is exactly what they need right now to achieve their goal. And if you get clear on who that person is and just make content towards that person, you'd be very surprised at how much easier and how much smoother your sales process becomes as a result of that. So that's the 4 beliefs. Now, that's really the crux of it. I've got some notes on my phone quickly. I wanted to kind of just walk through very briefly my sort of approach then on actually, okay, well, how do we actually then install and present those 4 beliefs in our marketing? And there's really, for me, there's 3 kind of pillars on how I do it. Now, I've got a separate video to this one. I'll link it in the description below, which basically is my kind of VSL, if you want to call it that. And it basically explains my entire business model, most of my business model front to back, if you're interested in it. So you can kind of click below and watch that. And essentially I teach something called the Peace and Profit Architecture. And the Peace and Profit Architecture is how to design your business, not just for profit, but also for peace, which is for if you're a parent, or you're going to be a parent, or you just want a business that's peaceful and doesn't just make loads of money, but does both, then that's kind of who it's designed for. But what do those things mean? Well, let's go through pillar number 1, peace. Peace is about what is it that makes a business peaceful? What makes a business calm? What makes it simple? What makes it easy to run and kind of spacious in many ways? And a lot of that is to do with having one kind of core offer you sell, less moving parts, so less complexity, less complex funnels, a simple way of selling to people, less dependence on having to launch or having to ramp up or sort of nurture people, no sales calls, no massive team. And then you move on to profit. Profit is all of the parts of the business that actually create demand, that create buyers. Basically, it's all the things that make you more money, right? And so it's understanding how to make content that attracts buyers, not just random followers, how to attract the type of people and how to actually pre-sell people in your content, how to sell in the DMs. Again, I hate saying selling in the DMs because it's not selling, it's more closing in the DMs. It's people coming to you already sold, just learning how to then close them. The actual mechanics of your conversion, so what does the actual process look like from A to Z of how you attract someone through to how you get them ready to buy, through to then actually showing them the offer and closing them and then onboarding them, and also then retention and building recurring income inside your business. The final pillar to it is then the actual architecture, the way the business is designed and structured that ties all of that together. And so think about, I focus a lot on principles versus tactics. So if you know the principles, then the structure and the tactics can look a little bit different, as long as they follow the same principles. Fixing bottlenecks before moving on to other issues is understanding how to design your business in such a way where you attract a certain person in the first place, and that tends to be the case for a lot of people, is their business is harder than it should be, not because you're bad or your offer's bad or you're bad at selling, but simply because you just attract the wrong people or you attract the right people for the wrong reasons. And again, as a result, everything after that feels much harder as a result. Offer design and then simplicity as a strategy. So that's the crux of it. And like I said, if you want to see more and learn more about that, there's a link in the description, a video that explains it. I'm not gonna lie, I thought I saw a goat behind me then. It's not, it's a, it's a shadow, but there are mountain goats on here. And as I go down, I'm gonna go past some. But that's really the crux of it. So look, I think we'll leave it there for today. But that's just a bit of a reintroduction to me. If you don't know much about me, you now know a little bit more about myself, my background, and sort of the things that I teach, albeit a bit more surface level, a bit more sort of a bird's eye view. But we're going to wrap up there. So look, this is what I have to now get back to. My hotel we're staying at is not that one, it's the one just behind it. You can sort of see it. Yeah, there. So it's still early. I'm going to go back, go and relax outside for a bit, and then it's going to be back, wake up the wife, wake up the son. Got our family here with us as well, and go grab some breakfast. So cool, appreciate it, and see you in the next one.